Hello, everyone. My name is Tyrone Lowe. This is my show, The Legends. And before I start my show, I want to thank everybody that actually subscribes to my show and actually tunes in. In the House of the Legends, I have a jazz recording artist. This guy's phenomenal. I've listened to some of his music, and I will actually say that you guys would actually agree as well. And in the House of the Legends, I bring you Tony Exum. Hey, Tony, what's going on, dude?
What's going on, man? Thanks
Hey, good to
for having
see
me.
you, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, welcome to my show, The Legends.
Thank you, bro.
So we're going to take you way, way, way back from when you began, actually
Hmm.
as a child. Or,
Yes.
let's talk about that and let the viewers know about that. How you were actually introduced to music.
Yeah, it's crazy. From very, very young, I was introduced to it. My uncle was a saxophone player, and when I was really a little kid, I used to hear him in high school. He was in high school, and
Right.
so that was like when I was 3, 4, and 5 years old. Then he joined the army, he became an army musician, and was happened to be stationed in the hometown Colorado Springs and Fort Carson. So I grew up watching him and listening to
Hmm.
him. So I picked up saxophone at the age of 11.
Okay.
At the time, my stepdad was stationed in Mississippi in Keesler Air Force Base.
Hmm.
So when I went home that summer from vacation in Colorado, I started playing in the Michelle Middle School band, and that's how I got started, man.
It's wild because everybody has a format, a
Yeah,
marching band,
right,
things
right.
like that.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, what made you actually get into the format of, were you actually doing like old school jazz, or were you influenced like Miles, Grover, Najee, things like, people like those
Oh,
artists?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. My mother was an avid jazz listener. Of course, my uncle was. So I was kind of raised on Grover Washington Jr. and David Sanborn, Ronnie Laws,
Hmm.
Earth, Wind& Fire. But also, my uncle, he made me listen to like Miles. He let me sit down and
Right,
listen to
right,
Cannonball Adderley and Bird,
right,
Dexter Gordon, so all the classics as they call it. But he himself, he was definitely coming from that Grover school, that Sanborn.
right.
So when I picked up the saxophone, naturally, that's kind of where I gravitated toward. And around that time, that's when George Howard was blown up. Najee was brand new, but was starting to make some
Right.
noise, and so was Gerald Albright. Like those are the new guys.
Hmm.
This is like '86 when I was 11 years old, so they were coming
Right.
out. And Kenny G was real popular. He was breaking out too. So um, all that sound, all those horn players were accessible to me because that's what my mother listened to, my stepfather.
Right.
So
Believe it or not, I started listening to jazz at a very early age myself, man.
mm.
The first album that I actually got was Donald Byrd.
Oh yes,
So, and
yes,
then I thought that every jazz album that I bought would be on Blue Net Records. You know
right,
what I mean?
exactly.
So I would go out
Yeah.
and I would go out and incorporate, because I play piano, and it
Hmm.
was like a thing where jazz was like a good moderation of music because it was at a slow pace, but it had a vibe to it.
Right,
You
right.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you listen to it, it gives you such of imagination of where the energy is flowing,
Hmm.
for you or against you, in a sense. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
so,
yes, absolutely,
so,
man.
um,
You
so
nailed
tell the viewers, how would you compare the old jazz to the new phase that they have out these, today?
I think that the main difference is in a lot of ways, how the music is being presented. The forefathers, the guys that came ahead of us, were able to. They had to be, you want to get out there, you had to be signed to a label, and that label had to present you, and put your music out there. And it's funny because before the smooth jazz format, was
Hmm.
created, Najee and Gerald Albright and Walter Beasley and our forefathers Grover and Ronnie and those guys
Hmm.
had R&B radio to depend on, or maybe some college radio, or
Right.
album oriented rock radio that would have like a jazz programming section during the day or something like that, or on the weekends. So we came out. I think the biggest difference is a lot of us are indie artists. We came out,
Hmm.
social media and the advent of the internet to present ourselves to the world, where those guys were coming off of the record label thing, and then having to acquiesce to the new business model, which was social media and CD Baby and
Hmm.
all that good stuff. So that's the biggest thing. But I also think those guys they were on the creative side of it. So we took what they're doing, what they did for
Right.
us, taking it to a different level, musically.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all coming from that same school of thought.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just kind of continuing the legacy and creating little ones of our own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just wish that we had, the bandwidth that they had, with the labels. But
Right.
it's a new day, so we have to do what we have to do to make
Okay.
ourselves known.
So let me ask you a question, Tony. When I say Birdland, what do you think about?
Oh man, when you say Birdland, to be honest with you, first thing I think about is the song by Weather Report.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Now
first
you
thing
got
I
to
think
be heavy
about.
to be into Weather Report. A
Yeah,
lot of people
oh yeah,
can't really get into Weather Report.
yeah. That was I was into that at an early age too, man.
Me too. I mean, really,
Yeah.
when they label actually was, I believe it was a Columbia.
Yes.
I believe it was, and you got to really be heavy to really get into Weather Report because
Hmm.
they go through a whole different type of
Oh man.
vibe, you know.
Yes, indeed.
But
Yes.
I believe that Birdland made a lot of jazz artists as well.
Oh, definitely. One of my favorite albums,
Hmm.
actually, is the Los Angeles version. It's Gerald Albright live at the Birdland
Okay.
West. Which is where he showed his straight ahead side. He showed his traditional jazz chops on that
Hmm.
record. It was a live record, and but then when you think of Birdland, you also think of like all the guys that played there. Bird himself,
Right.
Miles, Pharoah Sanders,
Hmm.
Cannonball, Adderley Quintet,
Right.
um, Dexter, all the people that went there that really defined that room, you know.
Right.
So when they created that song, it
Hmm.
was such a great song, I mean, it's one of the best songs I think ever made, as far as I'm concerned, just to really showcase what the genre was doing at the time, and for Weather Report to do it, being a fusion group,
Hmm.
just let you know. But then Joe Zawinul was,
Hmm.
he was a member of Cannonball's band, so and actually co-wrote, "Mercy, Mercy, Mercy," which is one of the
Right. Right. Right.
songs
Right.
in
Hmm.
jazz. So yeah, that's what comes to mind. It's such a legacy, man. Such
Hmm.
a great example of our, Black American classical music, which we call jazz.
So let's talk about what I want to ask you is for a good jazz track, is
Mhm.
the drummer actually the body and the foundation of any type of jazz music?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
That pocket, that drum, that groove
Hmm.
sets the tone. So, and then underneath that, or actually on top of it, it's almost like a pyramid thing. So you got the drums, right? And
Hmm.
that bass line comes in, and that really controls the groove. Then on top of that, you got the pretty stuff, the chords and the
Okay.
guitars, and maybe the other parts. But man, the drum and bass
Hmm.
are the foundation of everything. So when that's locked in,
Right.
it just, for a saxophone player, when you got a drummer and a strong groove,
Hmm.
it really just lends itself to bringing out the best in what we do. You know,
Right.
absolutely.
My favorite drum is Billy Gobham. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
my favorite album out of all is called Spectrum by him.
Mhm.
Where he actually does a phenomenal job as far as bringing out the craft of the music itself.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard anybody can really top him, to be honest
No,
with you.
Billy's up there, man. Billy's one of the best. He was
Right.
recently in Colorado Springs. I got a
Hmm.
chance to see him at a spot called Lulu's downstairs, and it was
Right.
just like, phenomenal, just incredible.
So we're going to talk about your new track, Everything. Can you tell
Okay.
the viewers about it?
Yeah, man. It was. I was excited to get it. It's my first release as a signed artist.
Right.
Signed with BSC Recordings late last year, and so we were just trying to find the right song, and took a little bit of time. But by the time I heard that track,
Hmm.
I was super excited. I mean, it's really me.
Right.
It's smooth, but it's funky. It's in your
Hmm.
face. So it's like that balance of aggressiveness, but laid back in a way. So
Right.
it really allowed me to kind of just be me. And
Hmm.
the producer Lou Humphrey and Jasmine Joyner, they got together and put together a hot track. And then what really made it sweet was when Erica Kane, my label mate, put her vocal
Okay.
on top of that. That just let me just open up, And so, man, I
Hmm.
love the song. It makes people feel good.
Right.
Great review from none
Yeah.
other than Cream
Very
Out
nice. I
Bar.
can say it's very nice.
Thank you.
So, to my viewers, we're going to play Tony's new track. It's called Everything. Go out there. I believe that is on all platforms. And you
Yes.
go out there and actually support him, listen to it, vibe with it.
Yes.
And Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house.
All right, so we're back. That was the name of the track.
Yes.
Go out there, cop it, listen to it, you jazz heads.
Yes.
So Tony, let's take a little bit forward, man. What are you working now on, and do you want to tell the viewers about some new stuff that you might be coming out with?
Yes. I'm working on some tour dates, of course, for next year. I'm working on the next single. Hopefully we'll get that out before summertime.
Right.
And looking forward to doing like a full like album or EP with BSE next year, of course. I'm also working on a lot of good things. I got a concert series I'm working on in Colorado Springs. I'm going to be bringing some of my fellow artists in town and hosting them. I've got some festivals next year that I'm looking forward to doing. So you just kind of keep up with me, with social media, and check my website for my upcoming dates. I'm just coming off a little run this past weekend.
Right.
Athens. I was in Houston on Saturday night and Athens last night, Athens, Georgia. That was my last tour date for the year. So I'm going to take a look and get back out there next year in February and start, making my rounds again. So so far I've got Middle C in North Carolina. I've got Shays Lounge in West Columbia, South Carolina. I've got Denver, May 6th. I'm just kind of throwing some dates out there. Las Vegas, I'm at March 17th. So, like I said, check out the website and all my social media, and you'll know what I'm up to.
Right. What would be your dream tour? What artist would that be?
Oh man, I would love to tour with my favorite group. Matter of fact, they're getting ready to get back out there. New Edition. I would love to open for them. That would be a dream come true. Them or Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah,
I hear that. A lot of people don't really get into jazz because obviously it's just a different type of genre, you know. And now that it's more contemporary, because I believe that like Kenny G, he brought out that different type of vibe, you know, and everybody started listening to jazz in a sense, What do you feel about the keyboardist of a band? How does he actually fit in?
Man, keyboards are one of the most important parts because that's like the meat of the sandwich. That's where the chords, that ties in the melody to the rhythm section. So that's what makes everything really work. So that's the glue. Maybe a better description would be the glue. So keyboard players are very, very important. And as a saxophone player, and a lot of us can tell you this, we like those big chords, those big sounding chords, those big sounds. And the extra keyboard parts are like, counter melodies to what the saxophone or the vocalist or trumpet or whoever the lead instrument might be doing. So they play a very big part in gluing the rhythm section to the lead part.
Okay.
Yeah.
My favorite keyboardist is Ramsey Lewis, and I also like Sonny Liston Smith. You
Yeah.
know, it's a whole different thing. But we'll be right back, and we'll be right back with Tony Exum.
All right.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house.
And we're back.
Yes.
I'm back with Tony Exum. So Tony, let me ask you a question. You know, back like in the 20s and the 30s, you know, there was segregation against artists with the bands where people of color didn't really have a barrier, and they really had a limitation as far as they really wanted to go. Can you tell the viewers about some of that?
Yeah, you know, that was very interesting times, particularly in the 20s.
Right.
Because as the roaring 20s are kicking in, you know, we have what was going on in New York with the Harlem Renaissance, all that Black excellence going out to the world. And that was, I think, the start of our culture and our creativity being embraced by the entire planet, but also being exploited or co-opted a little bit in other factions. So that was a really tough time. You know, those artists had to deal with playing rooms where they couldn't even eat, playing
Right.
rooms where going into towns where they couldn't stay at the hotel. And before that one book came out, that Green Book that was really known, those guys faced a lot of hardships because they had those sundown towns, you know, in throughout the United States. But at the same time, you know, some of the best music was born out of that era because they were able to reflect what they were doing, but also making people happy. You know, the 30s came in with the swing era. You know, Coleman Hawkins and Duke and Count Basie gave us so many great songs that
Yes,
are
it sure did.
songbook, you know, as a whole. So we have a lot of stuff that we were able to, as young jazz musicians, you know, learn from and participate in through their creativity. So even though it was crazy and it was, you know, probably the harshest time, you know, in this country, like with the Depression coming on right after that, and a lot of good music came out of that era, man. Like, you know, sometimes pain exudes creativity and excellence.
Right.
We were able to, you know, we're still able to benefit from that to this day.
Have you ever heard of any artists that actually took some of the big band's music and actually converted it into a more current event?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that I play on my radio show in Colorado Springs that have done some really good stuff. There's a guy named what's it, Gary Geezer's big band, Gordon Gershwin's big band. There's the Air Force Falconeers, which are based in Colorado Springs. They've taken like a lot of cool songs and made them into you know, really nice arrangements. Matter of fact, they took Thriller and did a really good job with it. They took Uptown Funk, but then they took like funky versions of like Take the A Train,
Right.
or So What, or you know, songs like that. So it's really cool to have you know, that kind of vibe, you know, with music, you know, to be able to. Sorry, I'm getting a call in here. I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
You know, to try to, you know, rearrange, you know, those great songs and give them a contemporary vibe. You know,
Right.
There's another big band group called the BBB, which is a guy named Bernie. He's got some really. He did a song like I think he took a war tune, "The World Is a Ghetto," and redid it. And then we've heard Marcus Miller do it in the big band thing.
Right.
You know, we've heard Bob Mincer, who's an incredible tenor player, with the WR big band. Yeah, good stuff, man.
You know, the Cotton Club now in Harlem. Now, did that make a lot of artists back in those days?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because a lot of now I'm gonna break it down just a little bit, because when I really think about jazz in a way of being going through a conversion, I think about Quincy Jones. You know, the way that he actually creates his chemistry towards that genre. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Quincy, is a lot of people don't know Quincy's history outside of just Thriller and stuff he did with Michael. That's what most people think of, but they don't realize that he was a big band arranger back in the day. He played the Cotton Club. He did a lot of good things with music and jazz before he became the R&B
Hmm.
funk producer that he grew to be in the 70s. With
Hmm.
like Brothers Johnson and Michael, of course, and all those great albums and great songs that he produced. So
Right.
Quincy's like the kind of the glue to or the bridge for some people to
Right.
from
Hmm.
jazz to R&B and vice versa.
I'm going to ask you a question. There's a lot of new artists that's coming out right now, whether they're acting, music, or
Mhm.
dancing, or whatever it might be. Do you have any encouraging words for them?
Yes, I'm going to tell a lot of these great new artists to stay creative, but stay humble. But most importantly, remember that the music industry is like 90% music and 10%, well, 90% business and 10% music. Let me get it right. It's
Okay.
a lot of business. So make sure you learn the industry, learn the business, listen to interviews, read memoirs, pay attention to the business side. That's the most important thing because that's going to be the difference between you being able to make a living
Hmm.
and create your legacy with what you do creatively. It's a lot of business. And um, I would also say to, always stay honing your craft. Don't ever get to a point where you think you don't need to practice or work on things. There's always more that we can do as musicians. It's a journey, not
Right.
a marathon. It's a journey, not a marathon. So remember that part.
Any shout outs to anyone that you want to
Oh yeah, I want to big shout out to BSE Recordings, the label, Lou Humphrey, Erica Kane. Big shout out to Najee, my buddy. Big shout out to let's see. I was thinking about this before you. I'm hoping you're going to ask me this. um, Big shout out to just Jazz Radio, all the people that have been supporting me all this time. My mother, my father, my sister and brother, my girls, my two daughters, Layla and Bria. Big shout out to them because they hold me down. And
Okay.
I just want to thank the fans, all the people that support this music and for supporting me. I appreciate you so much. It means a lot from the bottom
Okay.
of my heart.
As I've been, this is an honor to have you on my show. I'm quite
Thank you,
flattered
man.
to have you here.
Thank you. Likewise.
Come back again.
Yes. Anytime.
You have
Anytime.
an extended invitation.
Yeah,
In
man.
fact, I had Erica Kane on my show too. I did an
Oh,
interview
okay.
with her. If you
Yeah,
go on
she's great.
YouTube, you can check it out. Very good
Okay.
interview.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay.
she's great.
So this has been another T-Lo video production, and my guest is Tony Exum. He has a new track out called Everything.
Yes.
So go out there and cop it. And this has been another T-Lo video production, and you guys have a very nice, blessed day.
All right.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house. It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house. It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.